Welcome in, everyone. RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, John here. John rejoining the show after hanging his head in shame that his sport that he just, for whatever reason, wants to watch cost the Spirit one of their best players.
I think really what happened there was rookie hazing. I think they were mean to Croy and made her do it, and that's really. I think they should be looking within rather than without for a cause of this.
Just admit, John, that your sport is bad. The sport is.
I'll
bad.
never do it.
You're wearing a Yankee shirt, by the way.
I am.
We'll dig into that maybe a little bit later, but
yes, deeply.
But how you doing, man? How was your week? I know you were out busy traveling. That's why we got a little bit of a late recording. So
un vacación. Yes. Also, hello to anyone who's watching the unannounced live Wednesday night show at a random time. Congrats. Thanks for coming. I was on a little bit of a vacation with my dad and brother. Went to go see Yankees Red Sox at Yankee Stadium, which I recommend people do, even if some people think the sport is bad and some players put entirely too much torque and pressure on their bodies throwing a pitch that didn't have to be fast, 60 feet. Saw that. And then I saw Nats Mets on Monday night. Nice. Saw the 9/11 memorial, which I also recommend going to see. Like that's a day ruiner, but it is also something you really should go see. It was something. But yeah. And then the week before that, I think I was in Michigan for work, and you and Brian did the show, and like I listened to some of that one. Great. Yeah. But now I'm back, and I missed it. I'm recharged,
refreshed, ready
all
to
those
dive
things.
In. We're also recording. If you're listening on the podcast version, it's 8:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've got MLS Wednesday night games that are impacting the playoffs. So we're going to go into a little bit right now. It looks like DC, by the time tonight ends, DC will be out of a playoff spot. You're currently Philadelphia Union up 3-0 against NYCFC in NYCFC. I hope they burn every single bit of energy they have. I hope they just empty the tank, 5-6-0. Just do it. Just go right in and go nuts. Because then you won't have any energy for when you got to go play DC. So that's how that works. But yes, DC United. We'll get into that. I don't think we have really any sort of news that dropped soccer related.
Gavin Turner is committed to UVA instead of signing a homegrown deal. Maybe that matters. Maybe it doesn't. There are like a lot of names. So the reason I bring that up is because it came up on Twitter, and I asked Roche and Brendan, it seems like there are a lot of prospects that go to college, and then the assumption is they'll come back and then they'll get experience and come back for DC United. And I remember this guy named Patrick Foss, who was a left back when DC United needed a left back, went to UVA. Didn't set the world on fire, but there was so much certainty, DC needed to sign this guy, and it was a big miss to let him go on. And there's lots of players like that. It's seeming like one or two a year where I can't believe Adam Lundegaard went to Clemson, another player who played a little bit for Loudoun, wanted a deal, didn't get a deal, and I don't believe is playing anymore. So he seemed like a player. He was U.S. youth national team prospect. I think he played in the MLS Next Pro All-Star game, which is funny because we don't have one of those teams. So we got a little bypass option there, I guess.
It's the MLS Next. Next.
Sorry, yes. You're right. The one we do have one of those. That's just the academy team. Yeah. So I think that's the only news. I don't think there were any other contract news or injury news that
thankfully
meets the bar.
Thankfully, no injury news.
Yeah, definitely no injury. Yeah, that's good. That's good news.
Carlos Vela coming back for LAFC.
Yes. I mean, again, clearly they had lots of salary cap room on that squad. There was just an infinity amount of space after all the players they've signed. Giroud, obviously, on the veteran minimum, I'm sure, and Hugo Lloris probably also as well.
Yeah. The thing about Gavin Turner also to remember is if I recall correctly, I think there was a discussion about when's the last time we grabbed a guy from college. I will say with the Gavin Turner situation, DC did have Jackson Hopkins, who I think had committed to UVA as well, was
Did he?
on his way.
Cool.
He was on his way to UVA and then showed up at preseason camp, impressed the coaching staff there, and was basically offered a contract there. So the committing is basically think of it as when you get, when you're applying for colleges and you get into that safety school. And it's kind of like your fallback. You can still go get a college degree while you kind of
I'm enjoying calling UVA the safety school in this particular version.
Well, it is. I mean, and for some, some kids, some parents, it might be, might be what they want to do. They want that education. You can go play pro soccer later. I will say, the Richmond Kickers recently had a player that had committed to Washington, and they managed to convince him to sign a contract with the Kickers. I can't recall his name, but I know that was one name. So we'll see. We'll see what happens to that. That's something to watch. I don't think the committing to UVA means anything to means that DC's interested. They're going to go out and they're going to, they'll go grab him. So let's talk about the game. DC United 1-1 NYCFC. How do we feel about this result? Good result, bad results?
I think if we were not, let's put the two different contexts. One, the playoff chasing context. Oh, an okay result, a pretty good result.
Yeah.
You can't. We have however many games left. I think it's maybe 6 or 7.
No, less than
that.
I think 4. I think we got 4 games left.
So with that in mind, the few home games that are left, you want to get 3 points. So you kind of look down on it at that point. If you look in the broader aspect of talent, where this team has been and where the trend has been, I think it was a good result. I think you want to be getting points against New York City at home, regardless. And I think they showed good fight. So I look at it in 2 ways. Yeah. What about you?
I agree with you. I think this is considering the competition, considering all that. They have 5 games left, by the way.
Okay.
So 5 games left. Considering the competition, considering New York City are a better team, even though they're getting plastered right now by Philadelphia. They just scored a goal. It's now 3-1. So maybe they've got a comeback on their hands. That would be amazing if they could, eke out a draw here. Considering the playoff race, it probably didn't help some things, but I think this was overall these past 2 games, I guess what I've been most impressed with. And I feel like some people, I think I saw some posts on Reddit about, man, those are some like boring games that we've had. And I'm like, you know what? It's been a little bit refreshing that they've been boring.
Boring's
games.
okay.
Boring's okay right now.
Boring's okay.
First half did not.
Before we get started, I just want to say I was in New York City during this game, and it was literally on every TV and every bar that I walked past. There were 1 million people walking down the street and NYFC jerseys. Like all that was definitely happening. It was very real. Actually, no, I would not have known that the team existed or the Red Bulls, New York City. I can't imagine being the marketing guy for NYCFC trying to be like, hey guys, soccer.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens when this team gets a stadium.
Maybe.
I think the stadium, and investment, in a big name player. They need
multiple.
They need a Messi type. I'm not gonna say there's really only one Messi type player, but a big name player come. And I think
level player.
And I think right now why they can't really attract that type of player is they look at where they have to play and they're like, I think maybe in the early days the secret wasn't out, but now the secret's out about kind of the situation. So I think if you're like a star, maybe looking to go to a big city like New York, I think you're waiting for that situation to rectify itself. And then,
although you'll get told, hey, I'm going to play in New York City. And then you'll be like, okay, where's the stadium? And they're like, well, Flushing is kind of like New York City. You can see New York City from it. You can certainly look and see New York City. You want to be there for sure.
It's in the boroughs, isn't it? It's in one of the.
It is. Okay. It is. But I'm saying, like, if Kylian Mbappe is the guy, you're like, yeah, I want to live in Manhattan. Well, you're not going to play on Manhattan. Or really that close.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
it's a 45-minute metro.
It's not New Jersey. It's not like
it's a 45-minute metro.
Okay, fair enough. You would know better than I.
I just did it.
I haven't been to. I don't think I went to New York. I don't think I actually used like the metro all that much the last time.
It's great, by the way. This is my 5-second advertisement for the metro. Use it. It's great. It's much better than the DC one.
Yes.
And continue.
All right.
Game.
Let's talk game. DC United 1-1 draw against NYCFC. Let's start. The first half I thought it was incredibly rough. We'll get into, I think the main storyline for this is Gabriel Pirani kind of surrounding the DC side. And they opened up, I'm going to go back and look at the lineup because they kind of opened up with their same sort of 4-3, 4-1-4-1 or something like that, basically. Maybe a 4-1, 3-2 if you're pushing somebody up higher. but if I, when I looked at what they had sort of set up, they kind of had, obviously the lineup was, defensive lineup was McVay, Bartlett, picked up a yellow card. He'll be suspended for next week, which is not great. A silly yellow card, which we'll definitely get into. Bartlett, Aaron Herrera, Pedro Santos obviously out left due to injury. They have Gabriel Pirani out left. They have Gerald Stroud as the attacker, sort of the up top with Benteke. I think it was definitely shifting around a little bit. And I would say Jared Stroud was maybe playing a little bit deeper. Obviously, Martin Rodriguez coming in for the suspended Mateusz Klich. Thankfully, he will be back next year, hopefully refreshed and ready to go. And Boris now in the midfield. I think there are a couple of takeaways from that first half. First of all, this team missed Mateusz Klich. It is so evidently noticeable in the middle of midfield when he is not there. I know that there are some arguments about whether the team should keep him, whether they should get rid of him. I know if you watch MLS media, they're like, is he worth a designated player spot? I think there's an argument there as to whether maybe they can work it down. Maybe they can give him an extra year and, buy down his contract. But I think if you're the coaching staff, if you're the front office next year heading into the season, you really have to ask yourself, can we, if we want to play the way we want to play, we need somebody in central midfield that can do that. Right now, neither, I think Borzino or Matty Petola could develop into that type of player. Right now, they're not really that type of player, and they're not really able to sort of ring that. And also, on the flip side, what I think it is too, it's like you look at the center midfielders this team has right now. You have Martin Rodriguez, you have Borzino, you have Matty Petola. They can all do about half of the things. Borisino and Matty Petola are pretty good at, being cleanup as far as defensive, applying pressure, winning the ball, cycling the ball through midfield. None of them really have the ability to pick that long pass, to play that pass, to create a shot opportunity. Martin Rodriguez can do that. He's shown some creative ability. He's shown some ability on the ball, maybe a little bit more than Mateusz Klich. But he also just, when he, it doesn't have a click in there, he's not a type of player that can actually impose his will on the game and press. And I think we saw it in this game. Go ahead. I
think all you might need to get Klich to resign is to give him a luxury box with the Commanders, because he appeared to like that this weekend. So he's like you said, his value to the team is more than his value anywhere else. I think that it was similar to Andy Nahar, similar to Bill Hamid in certain eras. Like, certainly there are players that you don't think when you're watching them necessarily, you call them out all the time, but I think a lot of fans will watch games and not come away being like, I want a Mateusz Klich jersey. This guy is, the straw that stirs the drink. But then when you notice the absence of them, and then having no player that constitutes his, can build him in the aggregate to steal the money ball line in the after, like if you need to replace him, you're like, okay, well, maybe we'll figure out what he needs, what it'll take to keep him, because it will be a larger task for Mackay to find a player that has that skill set at the range of below a DP. So I think do your best.
Yeah. It's certainly going to be, I think, one of the storylines, maybe not the league storyline that's going to make a lot of noise or a lot of waves, but I think it is going to be one that is going to be discussed. Do you take him on as a DP for another year? You've already taken on Benteke. You can still free up that DP slot that's currently held by Matty Petola considerably next year.
Yeah.
You signed him as a free agent. You're just paying him salary, so you can buy down that salary. So you still have the option to leave that DP slot open. And you still have plenty of options for getting for freeing up space. Pedro Santos, 35, probably his last year. I don't think there's going to be any extension there.
I've heard a fan talk about re-signing him for next year. I don't remember who it was. It was a prominent fan. I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. I think we can do better.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe you can. Honestly, we've done this in the past. If he wants to play another year, great. You're also going to be a coach. Here's your player salary. Here's your coaching salary, and it adds up to more than what you make. But then we only have to claim a certain amount on the cap. So.
Let's do it.
That's certainly an option. Dahomey, I thought as well. I thought the right side was better. Obviously, Aaron Herrera being back, he was fantastic.
As always.
Gabriel Pirani was kind of on his left side, and I think what you see from Gabriel Pirani, and I'll get into a little bit about where I think they're finding where to fit him into this team, and maybe where there's an opportunity for him to be, starting caliber player
Mm-hmm.
in this team, because he does pick up a goal. We'll get into that in a little bit. But on that left side, he really was not able to. The NYCFC had full breadth of that left side, and it's not Pedro Santos's fault. Pedro Santos was literally kind of on an island and told, "Here, you have to mark Hannes Wolf and James Sands, and good luck with that, buddy." And Gabriel's like, I believe in you. And he's just like walking away. So I think I think in the press conference, Trollising kind of highlighted that they kind of screwed up. They did not play well in that first half, did not get that really many opportunities. They were on the back foot pretty much the entirety of that first half. Obviously the goal comes from, again, Pedro Santos giving up the goal. I don't think you can really blame him too much. He's kind of caught on that left side. There's a lot of ball watching on that left side. They get kind of overrun. Ball goes across. He does the only thing he can do, which is to make the tackle. And there's the PK call. It's a pretty easy call. I don't think there's anything really you can sort of say about it. Other than
it was the easier of the PK calls, I think you could say, probably. We'll get into that.
Yeah. But to DC's credit, they kind of picked themselves up and they get a free kick opportunity and score what many maybe thought was the tying goal. It's sort of a broken kind of play, but there's a pass. I forget who makes the pass over to Pirani. Pirani clearly sitting in an onside position, makes a couple nice moves on the dribble. There's some NYCFC player that falls down. I don't think it had anything to do with the play. Nothing to see there. And Pirani scores a goal. So we think tie game. Here we go. But the game gets called back. And I promised the fans I would talk about this. I think I've had kind of a week to cool down. I'm not upset. So if you watch the play, you can see McVeigh is sort of drifting back. It's a broken offside play. He kind of drifts back. He steps. He is impeding the NYCFC player. Now, I would make an argument that the NYCFC player has about 2-3 seconds and very clearly is just trying to run into the back of McVeigh to try to draw the foul. I think there's an argument to be made that, yes, he's maybe running a pick, but by then Pirani is a good 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. Is that defender going to make a difference? I think there's an argument that no. So how much is his real involvement in there? My biggest problem with this, and this is the type of stuff that I feel like this is why people hate the way the Premier League does VAR. It's you see stuff like this and it's so marginal. It's so on the line that you're like, is that actually clear and obvious? Is it clearly obvious that, that he is actively, impeding the ability of the defender, or is the defender had no chance of getting there? I would be fine if this was called live. If the assistant had, radioed to the center referee and said, "Hey, McVeigh was offside. Do you deem he was involved?" And then they had put their flag up and called it live. And then maybe they even go to VAR and who knows what happens. My biggest problem is that this goes to VAR and it's so marginal on the offside. It's marginal on everything else that how can you sit here and tell me that is a clear and obvious error? And when it takes forever for them to even look at the play to even determine whether it is or not. I don't know. That's my thought on that one. I don't know if you have anything different.
I don't. I was wondering if it was that he said a pick. It wasn't that he said a pick, right?
Because he basically said a pick. Yeah, he steps. So I'm sure if you asked him and he was making that. Well, I'm stepping away from the play to show that I'm not involved. He's stepping into the back. He is intending to put a body in front to sort of allow Pirani to have sort of that run. I think the defender is very far away and almost picks up his jog a little bit to try to run into the back to kind of try to make it obvious, but
NBA style. It was a good move on his part.
Yeah, to draw it. So it's unfortunate. And I thought, oh God, this could be a long night. This could be it.
But let's talk. I want you to talk about Pirani, how he's finding a way to be valuable, and it's I think not on the left wing.
Yeah, it's not on the left wing. The goal happens in the first half. So, if we want to count it, it's his third big time opportunity. I don't think you can fault him for his, center defender not getting himself back on side. It's a nice finish. It's a cool finish. And I think in the second half, I think this was the first performance in the second half where I thought he was really good. It was once they brought in Teku De Pietro, moved him to the left side. They brought him in for Dahomey. So they shifted Stroud out to his more natural sort of right wing position. They have Ted Pietro playing out left, and they had Pirani kind of playing higher up with Benteke. And I think that's a hint of something we might see in Philly, because I thought Ted Pietro was excellent. I thought Pirani was better because he didn't have to do any of that dirty defensive work. And it was Ted Pietro who was having to check back on the press. And we've seen him be effective in that. So that sort of tactical switch definitely changed the game for DC.
So it's less though. It's still not as conventional 10 though, right? Is it more of a withdrawn forward? Is it more of just a pinned, next to Benteke, like running off of him, or where do you see him being in that most valuable? Because it's not a playmaking 10.
No, he's not. He is absolutely I think this is more of a recognition that he's not a 10, that he is maybe a false 9, an attacker around Benteke. And I mean, so far it's been pretty effective. He still has a very good ability to dribble. Like he's a pretty effective dribbler on the ball. So
he looks like he's running downhill, and that's dangerous. It looks like when he's able to dribble on the run, just trying to beat players. It's still like, there's some good players that can dribble outside like a phone booth, and that's not him. He needs to be running.
Yes. Yeah. So So, and I think that's, I think it's more of he's not a number 10. He's not going to be a number 10. Maybe if we can get him to be an effective false 9 or an effective, attacking type player where that's all he has to do, I think he could be better. Brendan Kravitz says Pirani has now scored in 3 straight games, with the last one being called back after a dodgy offside call. How are we feeling about the Brazilian Pele? Hold on there, Brendan. Let's not go crazy. And then Jay said, Blue Star Dude says Pirani Flowers win. I think it's going to be up to, if he can settle into this role, he can be an effective scorer, an effective striker, and he can go out of there and he can, put the ball in the back of the net and score goals, I think, and maybe be that sort of false 9 where maybe he then can, be a supplier. He can maybe see a pass or two. But his job isn't primarily to be a creator on this team. It can come from other people like Ted Pietro, like Jared Stroud. It can come from a Mateusz Klich. Maybe we have
the flowers will be dependent on, like you just said, numbers on the board, being able to be extremely effective in that way. And if he's not, then I think there's still places you can go and do better. But I think I said in our Discord that if Pirani scores the goal that gets us to the playoffs, I have to buy an authentic Pirani jersey and wear it around, and I'm okay with that. I think that's fine. I will not apologize for the way that I have talked about him up to now. He's having his best run. Great. We'll see what I'll take it. I mean, obviously he's got an opportunity right now, right? He can nail his name in the team sheet as soon as he wants. And I think he's getting closer to that. But to your point, he is certainly, I think I'm annoyed oftentimes when you have a young player that can't do the dirty work or won't, has a very narrow condition in which he can excel. Because I don't know. I think for a young player, I think it's a lot more valuable to be tactically versatile and motivated to do whatever the coach is asking him to do. Maybe the coach isn't asking him to do that, and we don't know. But I feel like based on the minutes that he's gotten up till maybe in the last month or two, that Troy did not love something about him. Although in press conferences, he's been very, what does he call him? Gabby. He calls him Gabby, which I didn't know anybody else calls him. So we can call him that now. As soon as if he scores another goal next game, I'll call him Gabby, I guess once,
exactly. We'll see what happens. I think there was something to that formation. Now, I think the one thing about bringing Ted on there on that left side and him being, providing that sort of defensive dirty work and tracking back and, being supplied and that the penalty kick comes from him. I mean, he makes a move. I think there is something to be said for a player who can play that wing on that wing, who maybe isn't so direct, but can actually dribble in, maybe play a cross sort of in the, play a cross inside the 18 rather than looping one over to try to get to Benteke. But it's how the team got the PK goal. So it'll be, I'll be an interesting thing to watch, because I saw that second half formation and I'm like, maybe there's something. Maybe there is something here. Maybe there's something that could be positive for the team. I think this means I feel like at this point now, after this performance, though, like Christian Dahomey this is it. I understand the speed is there. I feel like you can find speed elsewhere. I feel like you can find speed plus, some other types of things. I think there maybe was some people thinking maybe we keep him, I think this is the end. I also think this is, in my opinion, the end for Martin Rodriguez as well. I think this performance kind of sealed it for me as, he's great. He's good as like a, if he's maybe the, part of a role where he can, do a specific role, like hold the ball up or supply it. Maybe he can be like a creator and an attacker type player, but he's still very limited in what he can do. And I think this performance showed, without a guy like Mateusz Klich, who was kind of like cleaning things up in the midfield, when he was kind of left there, to be the man, he couldn't be the man. And I think for me, that kind of means like, okay, there's some other players we can get at your salary that can be more impactful than what you gave today. So I think this is, and especially I think also that opens up, if we get rid of bump him, Tyler Miller's gone, Pedro Sanders is gone. Still a lot of salary for this team to try to, actually level up and be a better team this year, be a better team next year. So anything else you want to talk about the game? I think that's, pretty much, it wasn't a whole lot. It was definitely not the most exciting game, 2 PKs, but maybe that's good. And I thought DC, you look at the XG stats for this game. And again, the PK definitely holds it. But, despite, a little bit of a control of play from NYCFC, 1.6 was the XG. You take away 0.8 for the goal. So that's like 0.4 XG. On the flip side, DC were 1.3 XG. You take away that, it's like 0.3, 0.2. So not the, most dominant attacking performance. But again, I think they did enough to get the point. This is not a team that's going to set the world on fire, but this is a team that I think right now is positioning themselves where things go right over the next couple of weeks. Maybe you can sneak into the playoffs. Maybe you can sneak into that 8th spot, or even maybe that 7th spot, and avoid probably a loss to Miami in the first round if you make it past the play-in round. So,
what did you think of Boris Eno?
I thought I don't know if I have really. I think, again, he kind of gets folded into the Martin Rodriguez. Maybe this was an opportunity. I think I still see I can see, anytime I watch him, I see why he's here. He's very good on the ball. He can press pretty well. He can do a lot of those things. He's definitely not a player that I think is going, and he's still adjusting. So I'm going to give him some time to get adjusted. I came away, he does some good things and he does some bad things. And I think it's a matter of, can he, as he gets comfortable, as he gets a better understanding with his team, do some of those things get a lot better. And then, some of the bad things, become just trying to learn the team, trying to learn the system. So the
stats so far don't love him, but like you said, it's really, I'm wondering, in a defensive midfield world where they retain Canals in some way due to salary. I think they probably are going to. I think they're probably going to want to find a way. You've got Matty, who should probably be there rather than as one of the 2 center backs that they're going to play in a back 4. And you've got him. I would be interested to see how they sort it. I'm wondering sort of, Russell Canals was asked on the Pitch Pass podcast, basically, like, how do you feel about fighting for your spot, basically? And he's like, I've done that. He's like, there have been infinity times where they've brought in defensive midfielders to take my spot, and here I still am. So I'll be very curious to see how that goes. Who gets automatic starts, right? How many? We're in it right now. We're still ostensibly in the hunt, so we'll see how they sort it out. Russell's certainly nowhere near ready to play 90 minutes or 45 minutes even at this point, but glad to have him back. He, again, another defensive, another substitute appearance. I think first one at home, maybe, or second one at home. First one at home.
Probably first one at home, I think.
Yeah. So good. It's great for him. Defensive midfield is an interesting spot on this field. It's one of the areas now that we're developing some more depth, but the ordering of how things go will be interesting going forward next year.
I'll be curious to see, do they, are they going to look to maybe play, are they, you look at the idea of Klich is gone, that opens up a DP slot. I mean, I kind of looked at when they brought in Borisino, I said, oh, this team is maybe looking for like a 4-2, maybe a 4-2-3-1, or they're going to play sort of two sort of holding midfielders who are going to kind of press and try to like control that midfield just by having two of those numbers in there centrally. And then then you get in like a creative number 10 or somebody that can be sort of that attacking force in there. So it's something certainly to something to watch, another part to watch this offseason. I think you're right. I think he'll be back. Whether it's on the full salary he's on, whether he takes a cut, I think there's, the team does have some leverage in that they have some options. He has very few options, and maybe they can get him in.
And it's not, and he's on 650, so that's not insane. If he's a starter, that's not insane whatsoever.
150 in allocation, and he's down at the basically the max.
He's making 200 more than Pedro Santos and 125 or 225 more than Tyler Miller. So,
okay,
Tyler Miller's gone. So there's going to be room. There's the salary cap here is going to be thrown up in the air, certainly. But Borisy now is here till 2027, and he was signed by this GM and this coach. So they're going to want to figure out a way to give him max opportunity. So I think pairing 2 6s a la Ben Olsen is probably going to be one of the ways they do it. Get those players on the field. Speaking of Ben Olsen, Ben Olsen signed Junior Moreno at Houston Dynamo, which I love. I think that's a great move. I hope that works out for everybody involved.
Yeah, Carlos Vela coming back to LAFC too. That's after just hanging out. I was like, all right, fine, I'll play soccer, whatever.
Man, Pirani has Pirani has the second most dollars committed on the team at $2.7 million for the rest of his contract, and Benteke is at 4.2, and he wow, I love it. I mean, it's obviously a function of years on the contract, but it's still funny.
Yeah. And we played a transfer fee for him, and he does occupy that U22 slot. So, Purdy Fish with the first question says, is it better for the team long term if we make the playoffs this year or if we miss out?
Doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, I don't think it makes a difference. This team's going to have a ton of I think from a pure like vibes perspective, and just kind of like maybe a recognition that things are getting better, I think making the playoffs is important. I think right now you're in a position where things go right this week, like you can technically control your destiny, and that starts with the Philly game, who, yes, they're playing really well against NYCFC. This is still a very flawed Philly team. They're not the juggernaut that they used to be. Go ahead.
No, I was going to agree. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, and let's hope. I think Andre Blake was not in this game, and he's still injured. So hopefully that's still the case.
I think the reason why that question was asked is in the past it's always been a function of like, well, someone will get fired if we don't make the playoffs. So let's not make the playoffs. That's not on the board anymore. So, we'll make the playoff. Playoffs are fun. It'll be fun to get in the playoffs, despite the fact that Backfield has us as like it's a crime that we were in a playoff spot as of yesterday. Yeah. So whatever, they hate us. It's fine.
It's a crime. New England's even in the playoff picture this year. I mean, it's the nature of the MLS.
We didn't make it.
Far too many teams make it. It is what it is.
I think that Mackay has to be looking at this. I'm still on the salary page, looking at this and drooling at like how much flexibility he has. If Klich is gone, there's your number 2. Martin Rodriguez is probably gone. There's your 3. Dahomey gone, number 4. Pedro Santos is like 8. Tyler Miller's 9. So like, so much room. Really, like he's earning his money next year. Like that's the value. That's the like. All right, man. Now you there are no restraints. The excuses are gone. The cap handcuffs are gone. Go crazy. Do your thing.
And I would also add, going in and making the playoffs with the roster restraints this team has had, the constraints they had to actually do something, to actually like make the playoffs, even if it's just that one-off game, even if you go on the road and it doesn't work out, even to make it to like the first round and, get bounced by Miami. that would be, I think, an accomplishment, all things considered, and would show, I think, fans who, I think we're going to get into the next question about this, that, hey, things are turning around. Like, this is imagine we had barely any room to do much of anything, and we still got enough talent in this team to make
it's a feather in Troy's cap.
Mm-hmm. Feather in Troy's cap and McKay's cap as well for building it. It's Suo
Frank
from our Patreons. Says, what is the fan vibe this season, and will it impact on club leadership? I kind of feel like things will get better, but my 10-person season ticket member group has been hollowed out. Started when we moved to Audi, and finally the last of 4 are all dropping out, leaving only me.
Whoa.
Is this something that is happening across the fan base? I wouldn't be, surprised. I think you have to understand. If you're signing up to a fan podcast Patreon, if you're like on Twitter, you are a nerd. You see all of this. You see, and this is what we talked about. Like you know the restraints. You know everything. Like you know that this team can't rebuild or do everything that.
And we love nerds, by the way. I just want to be clear. We love nerds a lot.
We do. But I would ask, of your 10-person, of the 10-person group, how many of them just look at where they are in the standings and say, like, why am I signing up for this? Like, I think it also sends a message. I think in a sense, it's a good thing, because I think it sends a message to the team that, hey, you can't just ride this. You got to actually show improvement next year. You want us to come back, you got to go and you got to, you got to actually show improvement. So I think, fans will come back if this team starts being successful, if they're, fourth, fifth in the standings, if they're winning games, if they're showing a rise. I think you'll see the fans come back. There's a lot of still dedicated people out there that will just pay $100 and watch the games, or they'll go out. They won't buy season tickets. They'll go out to a bar and watch it with friends. One of the watch parties. Like they'll do all of those things to like follow the team and to keep up with the team. So
there's no reason to buy season tickets right now. There's no logical reason to buy season tickets right now. This has always been talked about. It's cheaper to buy them day of. It's cheaper to buy them when they have their promos. This is not a hot ticket. It's not hard to get, except for when Messi comes to town. So if you're buying a season ticket, you're making a commitment about. You're saying it's so that you have it. It's you want to be a season ticket holder. You like what it says about you. You like how it makes you feel. You like feeling a part of that community in a way that's more tied in than a single game buyer that dips in and dips out. You're a hardcore. So that's the reason to do it. I think that we're losing those because there's not a lot of roster continuity for average fans to become long-term fans. I have a friend that talks about how she, doesn't even know who's on this team anymore. Like every player that she's liked has been traded or has gone. And that's, some of that's the nature of the sport, but also like, if you don't have your Wayne Rooney's, Christian Benteke is great, and he's going to probably win the Golden Boot and could win the MVP, or should be in the conversation about it. Should be in the conversation about it, and like the top 5 Golden Boot winners. Yeah, he won't. Anyway,
he won't. I guarantee you, he will not be the top 3. He will win the Golden Boot and not be the top 3.
Ola Kamara time again, but
basically
all that to say, like if you want to, if I'm DC United and I want to have people have a reason to buy season tickets other than the way that they self-identify, it's that you need to make this a hard ticket to get. You need to be either a winner wall to wall and just expect to win, and then people will be attracted to that, which is always talked about is a path, or you need to figure out a way to make yourself interesting or notable in the market. And then it makes it harder to get. So yes, I think you're seeing that across the fan base. I don't think that's uncommon, and I think it's justified. And when this team gets really good again, buy them again, or just pay more for tickets and make that. There's no downside here. These tickets the stadium is not empty. It's not, the team is not going to go bankrupt. So whatever you do is not going to affect the bottom line that much. But I think that it's that's a pretty commonly held belief, at least on the online, Discords, Twitter's universe of people.
Yeah, and you don't have to buy. I would argue too. When I live in Richmond and I'm returning to Richmond, you'll see all of this behind me change, and it might be a little challenging towards the end of the year, but we'll get through it with my current living situation. But when I live in Richmond, I buy season tickets to Kickers games. It's probably worth it, but I could also not buy season tickets, and I could probably rely on people giving up tickets and probably actually get away cheaper. There is probably a method by which if I like stalked Facebook, I could find tickets for free. And I actually I'm going to be there this Saturday and got a ticket for free. But one person messaged me and said that they were trying to take their kids. They have like 4 kids and they're like a single dad working. And so I bought the story and said, here, take the ticket. I'll pay the $20 to go to the game myself. It's fine. But yeah, but I think it's that, that type of mentality. I think if the team gets good, I think, getting a season ticket, can also show support for what you're seeing. So
the other thing you can do is start a podcast and have extremely generous listeners offer their tickets all the time. I think I've not tried it because I live too far away and I've got other stuff going on. I would love a universe where I have less things to do, where I could try to see if I can get to every game just on the largesse of our wonderful listeners. I'm not yet. Keep your offers coming and we appreciate them, but I think that's another way to do it.
All right, one more question, Oscar. You asked 2 questions, buddy, but I think
we'll allow
kind
it.
of talked. Well, I'm gonna cover one, and then we're gonna talk Spirit because we promised. We was like, oh, this will be a short show.
It'll be less than 50 minutes.
Okay. Oscar says, any concern that Herrera contract hasn't been announced yet? Signing him to a long-term deal, no brainer. He's a fan favorite, good system fit, locker room guy. Do you think he'll have a lot of interest about? He might. DC, again, as we've stated, has an option on his contract.
They will take it.
Team held option. At the very least, they will take it. I guarantee you they'll discuss a long-term deal. They'll be like, hey, let's talk about it. We like you. We want to keep you. Can we look at, locking something up long-term? Considering he's been moved around a lot, he might take it. He might be like, yeah, I want to stay here long-term. I want to be part of this project. I'm very clearly the best wing back in this system right now. David Schnegg, jury's still out. I'm curious whether he's healthy or not.
He's going to say, give me Martin Rodriguez money and I'll sign a long-term deal. And I think, by the way, I think you should. I think if that's what it takes, like that is a player that should be in that top 5 Warners without a doubt.
He's still on like what, 800,000 or something like that. No, 750. Okay. So it's close. So I think you can get there. Again, the option contract comes with a year. I think this is a case where DC, DC has the leverage. If, they can't get a contract deal, they'll just take that option. They have them for a year and they've got some more time to kind of play it out. With regards to the reason why, they also had an option year on Ted's contract and they signed him to a long-term deal, but the clock was ticking because if they waited, then he would not be eligible for the U22 slot that they wanted to use to make his contract, to make his salary cap hit a little bit less. So, I think we'll see him back. I'm not concerned about that at this point.
Me neither. Spirit.
And Spirit, let's talk Spirit. Washington Spirit dominating 3-0 victory over the Houston Dash. This game was pretty much over, I'd say, by about minute 7. Fortunate penalty kick call that they got after VAR. The announcer being like, I don't think that's a PK. I don't think it's PK. I'm like, well, she's making her body bigger. Her arms behind her back. Her arms like out in front. It's pretty clear. I think if we want to start having real arguments about what we're going to do about handling calls and everything like that, you know what we need to do? Stop making them penalty kicks. Make them free kicks right outside the box. That's been my call out for years. I'm done with this whole charade about trying to pretend that penalty kicks are a fair representation in the sport. So, but yes, PK win. Spirit just really all over this game. I don't know if there's really any sort of assessment you can make. I thought it was interesting. Terry McKeown was like roaming into the attacking third. She actually made plays across to get the to draw the first PK.
I mean, that's her preference. I think that typically there's a higher line of resistance. Fortunately for the Spirit, the Houston Dash are a rudderless ship at the moment, quite literally, with their coach just gone. There were players that went to the mix zone on Saturday, right? And we're saying we need a coach back. We would really like a coach back. That'd be great if we could do that, or hire another one. But just a coach would be good. He's been gone, I think, for 2-3 months, maybe the middle of summer. Mm-hmm. So kind of strange there. And also the Dash are just sort of adrift right now. They're, from a personnel perspective, Jane Campbell is one of the best goalkeepers in the league, and on a team that, at least on this Saturday, did not look at all interested in defending. In the back line or in the midfield, the Spirit were able to just enforce their will on them the entire game. I think it's notable to say Ashley Hatch steps in for an injured Ule Sar. Ule Sar's back, I believe, is that issue here. She's got a lumbar issue. Ashley Hatch has been in the sort of unenviable position all season long of being just shoved into different lockers all over the field. Wherever there was a need, she went, and I don't think she was a fit in any of them. Gets to play in her traditional 9, bags 2 goals. The penalty kicks, whatever, she always converts those. I liked her finish off of the knee from a Trinity cross. And then again, Trinity scores. I just said she got an assist. She also scores a goal from outside the 18. Just sort of pushes through 3 or 4 dash defenders and plays it in. Scores, takes a nap on the field, really showing that this game was over. It's time to go to sleep. She is a player that continues to be, there's no need right now. She's under contract, I believe, for another year past this one. I think that there should be no doubt that Michelle Kang should give her whatever it takes to keep her here as long as it takes. I'd be interested to see, I'd say 2 years ago, I talked to almost every Spirit player. The only Spirit player I have not talked to is Trinity Rodman, probably, that I wanted to. And to a person, they were all like, I don't really have any interest in going to Europe. It's not really my bag. I don't really care. I like playing here. I'm wondering how she feels about that. I wonder if she thinks like, maybe it'd be cool playing the Champions League. Maybe I can go play for Lyon since I've got opportunities over there. Well, maybe I want to try something different. If she doesn't, if she like Ashley Sanchez, who told me like, I don't even like traveling. It's fine. If Trinity feels like that, then lock her up forever. Stay here. Take an equity stake. You Magic Johnson and Michelle Kang can own the Spirit. That's fine. But you run out of adjectives. You run out of things you can say about a player who is consistently the best player in the field and does things that no one else can do. But count yourself lucky for watching.
Yeah. And she's almost leveling. It's almost like she's leveling up a little bit.
She's getting rid of the weak spots in her game. Like before, it was like if you kick her enough, she'll get mad and get out of the game. No longer.
Yeah, and I'll say in this game, I think what she's displaying to me, obviously the assist. I felt like there were times when I feel like she was kind of like, and I've seen it a little bit this season, and I think this game, again, competition aside, the Dash are not good. I felt it was kind of one note. It was like she would dribble the ball, cut inside. Defenders knew she was going to do that. They would just kind of collapse. She would take a shot. It would get blocked, go out, out of the box basically, and that would be it. Now you're seeing her, maybe play that cross, and maybe having a player, like Ashley Hatch, that'll be something to watch, and that'll be something for Yardas to consider. If while Sar is out, Ashley Hatch is going to have a great opportunity to get goals, and if she can show that affinity for being in the right spot, maybe that's a decision that that Jonathan takes in and says, "Hey, actually, I know you're back, Sar, but right now we're going with the hot hand, and that's Ashley Hatch." So I think she looked so overjoyed just to be playing in like her natural role.
Yep.
Very much so. I mean, really, like, there's not much. Like, I was trying to think, was there any bad in this game? The only bad I have is, I felt there were opportunities they didn't finish. I think this has maybe been a storyline for this team that's sort of come up in this last bit of the season. It feels like they're generating a lot of chances. They were at like 2.68, 2.7 XG in this game. So, I mean, or maybe it was past 3 at that point. Dominating performance. Like, they were just all over the Dash. But it did sort of feel like this game, it was like, PK goal is one thing. Then you have a great finish on the first goal. And then the third goal is just an unreal out of the box shot. But they also had a ton of chances that were like right in the box. Again, Lacey Santos also had a really nice finish, sort of unfair for her. She just continues to get better to where like the Spirit are going to be like overpowered next year with, you either have Lacey Santos running at you, making passes, or you have Corey Bethune when she's back healthily, like running at you and making like passes. Like, it's just like completely overpowered, like to no end. So yeah, it's fun times ahead for the Spirit. I don't think there's any way to say that.
So the other things that I wanted to say are just a little bit of notes. McKenna Morris signs a contract extension for 2 years. She was the only player that was in the draft class this year that didn't have a multi-year contract. The Spirit have also already clinched the playoffs. It is September 14th. That's something good. Mm-hmm. And then we got a press release in our mailbox about the Spirit had groundbreaking partnership with Fanatic Sportsbook. And I was like, boy, I don't care about anything less than this ever. And somebody had to write it. Somebody had to write this press release. But boy, a big who care. A big who care there. Did Croy Bethune go on the season-ending? Yes, on the season-ending injury.
Yes.
I guess if it was a meniscus repair, it must have been a major meniscus repair, and not like something that was arthroscopic. Because you could think that you might be able to get back for. Oh, when's the championship? November. Yeah, never mind. No, it's too soon. No, but yeah, next year will be full speed, and then you have yet another weapon for a team that's pretty much unbeatable already.
Yeah. Fun times. I still one of the TikTokers I watch still has the Spirit as a good team and not a contender.
Ridiculous.
I think they're a contender. I think they're the most. They are the closest. The Pride are good, but I still think they are. Maybe still a cut above of where the Spirit are, especially because the Spirit are hurt a little bit with some missing pieces.
Who are their contenders? Pricey?
What's that?
Who are their contenders? The Pricey? You're the TikTok.
Yeah.
How do you have with two contenders? The champion. They're just saying no one. Okay. All right. Okay.
They're just saying all they're saying is the Pride are the contenders. Everybody else is just good, either good or
that
less.
Is a weird way to do contending.
That's what she's saying.
Minus points for that.
Yeah, I disagree. But when do the October 6th, man, bookmark that game. Orlando Pride, Washington Spirit. That's going to be a big game. But could potentially, if the Spirit, if the Pride slip up at all and the Spirit catch up, that could be a game where they could overtake first place. First or second doesn't really matter other than that as far as the playoff seeding goes, because the final is a neutral site. But still would be nice maybe to claim that shield. All right. I think that's going to do it. I don't think there's anything else we got to go down. Again, thank you guys so much for being patient with us. Sorry for the late show, but we got a late DC game. And I think
Spirit play on Friday.
Spirit play on
against
Friday
Kansas City.
Night. Ooh, Friday night.
So a game that matters.
Against Kansas City. A game that matters on Amazon Prime, I'm assuming. So definitely check that out. And then the DC play Sunday in probably a pivotal game to decide whether this team makes the playoffs. I'm going to go on a limb and say in that game, if DC wins, I think they're making the playoffs. If they tie or do less,
I agree with that. That is the official position of the show.
Yes, sounds good. All right, we'll talk to y'all later. Catch you on Monday, normal time.
Vamos.
Bye. Vamos.